Sometimes I see faces, for Christ's sake, and I'm so alone. Great.
So we are talking about It Stains the Sand Red, directed and co-written by Colin Miniham. Now I'm going to enjoy talking about this one, so pull up a chair and let's settle in. This is a zombie film. It's the end of the world and it's the zombie apocalypse, but this is a bit of a zombie film with a difference. If you're tired of your humdrum zombie apocalypse movie, then I could recommend this one. So one that takes a little bit of a different story path with it, and it's kind of somewhat original. Admittedly, there was another film that came out earlier this year called Breakdown Lane, of which it does have a somewhat similar story to it, but that was actually quite poorly made. This isn't. This is actually quite a well-made film. The focus of this story is on this young woman called Molly, who's an ex-stripper from Las Vegas, and she's trying to escape the city to get to this kind of airfield where she hopes to kind of get away, to some kind of, promised land paradise, etc. And she's initially with this guy, but they're in this car, they get stuck in the sand, and essentially they have to kind of walk across a desert. The guy is killed at the beginning of the film. It's not really a spoiler. And by the singular zombie that it then decides it's going to pursue this woman, this Molly, across the desert as she tries to walk 36 miles to this airfield across rough terrain, sandstorms, scorpions, it's all there. And because this zombie is relentless, it's just constantly after her, she has to kind of stop and rest all the time, and she can only really walk so fast. This zombie is only ever a few feet behind her, so she has to kind of try and evade it with, and basically not get eaten and still kind of be hydrated and all that kind of stuff. So it's essentially the slowest chase movie in the world, this film. And if you've heard the saying, a boy and his dog, this is essentially a girl and a zombie. The interesting thing of this film is that the relationship between the zombie, which she names Smalls, and Molly kind of changes as the film progresses. Initially, the zombie is kind of, an enemy to try and be escaped, but she actually starts to become somewhat attached to it and almost treats it like a dog, and it starts kind of showing very rudimentary signs of intelligence, and the relationship changes, but more on that later. So that's kind of the basis of the story. I won't go into really any spoilers here, but let's talk about any kind of positives and negatives. I'm going to start off with the negatives first of all, and I have two, one minor one and one bit of a larger one. The minor one first, and this is maybe a little bit nitpicky, but the kind of the first half of the film, the zombie is treated like a bigger threat. It's like a shark, essentially. It's smelling the blood of this woman. She just happens to be on her period, which obviously doesn't help the matter. So it's essentially attracted to the blood. It kind of follows her wherever she's going. But there's multiple times when I feel that she could have maybe got rid of the zombie. I mean, when you watch a film, and it's easy to critique what characters do on screen because you would sit back in your armchair and think, I wouldn't do that. That's a silly decision. But you've got to think, in these situations, people are panicked. They're not going to make rational decisions. But in this film, I would say, because it's kind of spread over, she's kind of pursued by the zombie over a period of days, the panic would have gone, so she has time to make rational decisions. She lights a fire, but doesn't try to set the zombie on fire. They walk past a cliff. She doesn't try and push it off. She has all these sticks that she tries to kind of distract it, but never attempts to kind of stab it in the head, even when she's on a little plateau and its head is just there, and she could easily just kind of stab it in the eye or something. So I felt that maybe should have been addressed. But that's the kind of the nitpick, I guess. The more larger criticism I have is, as the second half of the film sort of progresses, the relationship changes, and she kind of starts treating Smalls as almost like a dog, and talks to it, and the relationship starts to change to both parties. I won't say why, but I think it goes a little bit too far in one direction, and it's not kinky, don't worry. But I feel it just went a little bit into silliness, to be quite honest. There's an event that happens, and a couple of events that happens that you just think, oh, come on, that's just a little bit stupid. You're just asking for trouble. And you kind of lose sympathy, I think, for Molly as a character, because she makes decisions that just seem completely ridiculous and silly. I actually quite liked the way the relationship changes, and kind of, it's a very interesting take, and it is really, Smalls is treated like a dog, and or a very young toddler or something like that. So it's kind of, it's interesting, but I feel it just goes a little bit too far with it, to be honest. But let's talk about the good stuff. Now, I mentioned the movie Breakdown Lane, which is a very similar premise. You know, a woman gets stuck in the desert in a zombie apocalypse, has to walk across the desert, etc. That one was actually quite a poorly made film. It was just had loads of kind of problems with it, technical and otherwise. This is a solidly made film. For a relatively low budget film, I gotta say the effects here, first of all, looked fantastic. I mean, the zombie effects look great. There's lots of practical gore, especially towards the end of the film. There were some quite sort of gruesome, gory scenes, and there are a few zombie attacks in it, and people do die. And it's all very kind of explicit, and lots of kind of flesh ripping and guts being pulled out and stuff like that. Looks great, and even when we see like the visual effects from the far, you know, Las Vegas on fire, it looks really good. I was really impressed with the visual effects, and I've got to say, I thought the direction here was very good as well. The kind of the cinematography was great. I thought the acting was very good for the most part. There's a small child in it towards the end, which I thought was played a little bit too young for the age that it's meant to be, but there you go. But Molly herself, this woman, I thought did a great job of really having this kind of very sort of like run a gambit of emotions. Now, there's, like I said, there's this moment in the film, there's a sort of 10 minutes in the film maybe, where I think the writing goes off the rails a little bit with her character, and she makes her associations, but I don't put that down to the acting, I put that down to the writing. But overall, you know, we see all sorts of emotions go through her, and I thought she does a great job here. And I've got to say, the actual premise of the story is thoroughly intriguing, and it's a really well-made, thoroughly enjoyable movie that just slips up a little bit kind of in the second half for me. But it's a solid movie, and a very different movie to your kind of standard zombie films. Maybe not that different, but it certainly has a degree of originality. I would highly recommend this film if you are a zombie fan for a start, but even a more general audience, I feel would appreciate this. So if you like things like Walking Dead, you'll definitely like this movie. I think it's a solidly made, enjoyable film with great acting, a great central idea, and is a very well made film overall. So I would definitely recommend this film. Couple of little niggles for me that prevent it from becoming an absolute masterpiece, in my opinion, but nonetheless, I'll give it a high 8 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me comments. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.